Drink, Explore radio network. Here now is your fabulous host, Mr. Randall White.
I just have to feel good after Monica introduces me that
way.
So
you got to live up to that.
I know. 9:33 the time. Good morning, everyone. On this June the 23rd, we are now solidly into summer here in North America, or the Northern Hemisphere. I'm your host, Randall White, joined by Patty Piper, and you're listening to the Eat, Drink, Explore radio network, and we're happy to have you here. I don't know if you've been checking the headlines lately, but if you have, you've seen several stories from different parts of the country that have to do with bees struggling in most cases, and there seems to be a direct connection to pesticides in each of these stories. A big one out of Oregon has to do with some 50,000 bumblebees that were found dead in a Target parking lot underneath a specific type of tree. And joining us on the line right now to talk a little bit about this is Scott Hoffman Black. He's with the Xerces Society. They're the ones who discovered this issue. Scott, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me on, Randall.
Yeah. So when did this discovery happen up in Oregon?
Well, we started getting calls a week ago Sunday, and were able to investigate on Monday and found that bees were just falling out of the trees. It was so amazingly disheartening, just falling out of the trees, hundreds and hundreds of bees as of Monday. As we further investigated, we got the Oregon Department of Agriculture involved, and we're able to find out that this was indeed a pesticide poisoning that was causing the bees to die. And the latest estimate is that over 50,000 bumblebees, as well as some honeybees and things like ladybird beetles, were killed because of this pesticide use.
So is there any move at this point to stop the use of that pesticide? How is whoever's responsible for the spraying reacting to what you all have found?
Well, the company who did the spray has come out now. It took them a week to come out and say they will try to make things right. I'm not sure how you make things right when you kill 50,000 bees. I think the bigger issue, and an issue that the Xerces Society, as well as many other sustainable agricultural groups and pesticide groups, have been pushing in Washington, D.C., is getting EPA to take steps to limit the damage from these toxic insecticides. These are specifically neonicotinoid insecticides, which many people may have heard of.
Scott, what are these types of trees, and why is it that they needed to have pesticides on them at all? These were just parking lot trees, right?
They were parking lot trees, and they were sprayed for aphids. Aphids don't hurt the trees, but what they do is they produce honeydew, which falls on cars, perfectly water-soluble, easy to wash off, but it is a nuisance, I guess, and they decided to spray these trees purely for a cosmetic reason, causing this damage.
What is the type of tree? They have like little yellow flowers?
Yeah, it's a European linden tree. So they're planted all over the country, parking lot trees, street trees, often in people's yards. And they've got a really nutritious nectar source that bees are attracted to. So makes them, unfortunately, really problematic if you're using toxic insecticides on them, because the bees are drawn there for the food.
It's really sad. Is the thinking behind colony collapse disorder, because we've heard so many different things about that, changing habitat or elimination of habitat or mites that might be the problem. What's the thinking at this point on the colony collapse disorder for honeybees?
Yes. First, to clarify, this kill has nothing to do with colony collapse disorder. It's a pesticide, direct pesticide poisoning. And in this case, it was almost all native bees. Honeybees are not native. They're very important for our agricultural systems, but they were brought from Europe. Native bees are just as important for many agricultural systems. And in the case of Oregon, we think we could have lost 300 wild colonies of these bumblebees.
Wow. Because they're all pollinators. Whether they're honeybees or not, they're pollinators.
They're pollinators. And honeybees native bees, they're all in this complex of pollinators. Many of them help pollinate our most nutritious foods. 1/3 of your food you eat is you can thank a pollinator for, and they're the most nutritious foods that we have. They're the fruits, the vegetables, many of the nuts. We would have rice, we would have corn, we would have wheat, but we'd have a pretty dull diet without pollinators.
That's for sure.
But back to colony collapse disorder. Colony collapse disorder is an affliction that affects honeybees, and it was first noticed in 2006. And what happens is that it's really fascinating because the bees leave the hive. All of the worker bees, which are all female, they just leave the hive and go somewhere to die, is what everyone believes, leaving the queen and the brood, which are the babies, to die separately. Now, we believe, and the latest information is that this is a complex of issues affecting colony collapse disorder. It may have to do with nutrition. These many bees are trucked around, so there's some stress. But the overlying issues are that likely pesticides in the hives and a disease that affects the bees that aren't doing well. Think about yourself. If you were having to take in pesticides, your immune system would be lowered. Likely these bees have a lowered immune system, and a new disease is causing this phenomenon. And it's pretty startling. Over 40% of hives were lost in many cases last year across the country.
Just last year alone.
Yes.
Scott, can you speak to what happened recently in Illinois where the researcher...
He's a beekeeper, Terrence Ingram in Illinois, who had his hives seized by the ag department there. Have you heard about this?
I've heard about it, but I really can't speak to it because I'm not knowledgeable enough to speak expertly, and I like to have my facts.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, we were wondering because it looks like he had made a direct connection to Roundup.
Yeah, that's what he's claiming.
Yeah, and so
yeah, and Roundup is a herbicide, so that's interesting. Herbicides oftentimes, I suppose, we believe that they don't really affect these animals, but there have been studies actually that show that if butterfly caterpillars eat plants that have been affected by certain herbicides, and I'm not pointing out Roundup specifically, but if they eat plants with specific herbicides, it will affect their growth rate and will potentially harm them. But again, I can't really speak to this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Scott, I had read in the Oregonian yesterday that there were some other isolated deaths of bees surrounding this same area. It wasn't nearly on the scale of 50,000. It was like 100 here and that sort of thing.
Right.
Did you see that as well?
Oh, yes. We actually have been following that, and we asked the Oregon Department of Agriculture to investigate that bee kill as well. This is in Hillsboro, seems to be the other largest one.
That's a suburb of Portland?
It's another suburb of Portland. Mm-hmm. We're seeing hundreds of bees die. It has been confirmed that the same pesticide was used on those trees. The difference is that pesticide in Wilsonville was used outside of the registration. They did not follow the rules. In Hillsboro, we believe they did follow the rules on this toxic insecticide. It was used in March. It wasn't used when bees were visiting because it was well before the flowers. But this just shows how long these insecticides can be toxic in these situations. Applied in March, still killing hundreds of bees in June when the plant flowers. Now, think of this and multiply it orders of magnitude across the country. We're using these insecticides in all of our environments, and for the most part, unless these bees fall on concrete, nobody's going to notice that they're dying. If they fall into ag fields, if they fall into a park, we would not know that we're seeing that so many bees are dying.
It would go unnoticed.
It would go unnoticed, and I think this is happening hundreds, thousands folds across the country with these insecticides. And I think Hillsboro really brings it home because at this point we don't have all of the information. But we believe it is a pesticide kill. We know the pesticide was applied in March, likely under the rules of the registration, yet we're still seeing bees die. Again, as you said, rightfully so, not in the magnitude we saw in Wilsonville, but still hundreds of bees dying under trees is disconcerting.
And so what, your organization, because we're talking about bees, but you are concerned about other critters. What does it encompass?
We are concerned about anything without a backbone, basically.
Invertebrates?
Invertebrate. We work on snails. We work on monarch butterflies, which San Luis Obispo has the largest populations of in California. We work on everything in between, tiger beetles and freshwater mussels. And these insecticides, one thing that most people talk about bees with these neonicotinoids, but lots of new studies show that they affect the broader ecosystems. Many of the other beneficials, ladybird beetles, but also the aquatic organisms that are the underpinning of really the aquatic life. You won't have the fish, you won't have many of the birds without these aquatic organisms. And one thing I'll point out is that the state of California is likely approving one of these neonicotinoids for use on rice.
Hey, Scott, I want to address that. I know you have a plane to catch. Can you stick around for one more segment?
I sure can.
Okay, great. 9:44 the time. You're listening to the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network. I'm Randall White with my co-host Patty Pyburn. We are talking with Scott Hoffman Black with the Xerces Society, and we're back in just a moment. Randall White here, host of Eat, Drink, Explore Radio, with a tip for Central Coast wine tasting. Eberly Winery was recently voted Winery of the Year by the world's top sommeliers and has one of the best local tours according to Wine Spectator. Eberly Winery open daily 10 to 6, and the winery's cave tours and wine tasting always complimentary. It's easy to find, too. Located on Highway 46 East, just 3.5 miles from Highway 101. Now it's time to plan your visit. Just head to eberlywinery.com. Can we have your attention for a moment? Eat, Drink, Explore Media has an important date we want to share with you. Saturday, July 13th. We invite you to join us at a craft beer and food event like no other. At last count, generous samples from more than 70 breweries will be paired with local culinary treats for the 2013 Breast Fest along San Francisco's waterfront at Fort Mason. Going on its 14th year, the annual Breast Fest has grown dramatically, raising money for an incredibly important cause, providing free, complimentary treatments for women battling breast cancer. The Charlotte Maxwell Clinic offers services such as acupuncture, massage, organic foods, and transportation. The clinic's core mission to provide relief from the terrible side effects of cancer and its treatments. Eat, Drink, Explore Media is very proud to be among the main sponsors for this year's event. For more information, go to thebreastfest.org. Randall White here, host of Eat, Drink, Explore Radio, with a tip for Central Coast wine tasting. Eberly Winery was recently voted Winery of the Year by the world's top sommeliers and has one of the best local tours according to Wine Spectator. Eberly Winery open daily 10 to 6, and the winery's cave tours and wine tasting always complimentary. It's easy to find, too. Located on Highway 46 East, just 3.5 miles from Highway 101. Now it's time to plan your visit. Just head to eberlywinery.com. The Eat, Drink, Explore Media radio show you are currently enjoying is in a local affiliate commercial break. Live programming will return shortly. Did you know you can watch a live video simulcast of our Sunday morning and Thursday evening shows from your computer, smartphone, or tablet device? And to top it off, it's free. Simply head to eatdrinkexplore.com or download our free app from the Google Play or Apple App Store. If you have a suggestion for an upcoming guest segment, send an email to radio@eatdrinkexplore.com. We're always looking for fresh ideas, including yours. We love to share fresh, local, organic, seasonal, and sustainable ideas throughout the week. And the best place to find those are on our Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook feeds. Our username across the social networking universe is simple: Eat, Drink, Explore, all one word. Hey, college students, Eat, Drink, Explore Media is always looking for qualified journalism or marketing interns. Send us an email today so we can check your status and put you on the list for upcoming intern vacancies. Would you like to hear this Eat, Drink, Explore radio program on one of your local radio stations? Let the station know and contact us as well so we can get the ball rolling. Okay, you made it. The local affiliate commercial break is now over. Time for more informative and entertaining programming from Eat, Drink, Explore Media. Thank you for your patience. .49 now the time here on this Sunday morning, June the 23rd. Great to have you with us, everyone. Don't forget to catch the supermoon tonight. It is, you might have saw it last night as well. Beautiful, big, 14% larger than normal, Patty. Is that right?
That's what it's going to be. 14% larger, 222,000 miles away from the Earth. So it'll be at its closest point.
Yeah. So nothing to worry about, though. People won't be going crazy and that sort of thing.
The scientists say there's no correlation with that.
Joining us on the line right now, I'll hold over from the last segment, is Scott Hoffman Black with the Xerces Society. And when we ran into the commercial break there, Scott, you were just about to talk about a pesticide here in California that is in the approval process. Is that right?
That's right. There are many of these. There are many pesticides used in both agriculture and in urban areas throughout California and the United States. One thing I will point out is that oftentimes we use more pounds per acre in urban areas than we do in ag areas, so we can't just point to them.
Right.
But in this case, one of the highly toxic neonicotinoids, imidacloprid, is on track to be approved to use in rice in the Central Valley of California. And unfortunately, these insecticides are extremely water soluble, sorry about that, and they're extremely toxic to aquatic organisms. These fields run right off into the Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers and their tributaries, and this is really problematic from an aquatic ecosystem point of view.
So the rice industry is huge in California.
Mm-hmm.
Is this one of those cases where rice could become like a dirty dozen sort of thing where you should definitely look for organic?
Well, I'm going to speak a little outside of my my scientific background and say that I only buy organic. I've got 3 children, and especially with this class of insecticide, I used to have that card which told you which ones you could wash the insecticide off of.
Mm-hmm.
But this class of insecticide is systemic. So if they're using neonicotinoids, that means there's likely this product in the food we eat, not on it, in it.
Can't wash that off.
Again, I don't. I'm not a scientist who works on human health, but to me, feeding my kids something with a toxic substance in it that might be carcinogenic down the road is really problematic. For
Right.
me.
Well, Patty and I were discussing off air, Scott, that we were kind of wondering bee death, whether it's a bumble or honey, is that somewhat like a canary in a coal mine for us?
I think it really is. We are seeing right now, I would contend, cracks in the system. These animals are keystone species. They pollinate both crops that are important for us, but pollinators, especially wild pollinators, are vital for over 85% of the flowering plants on the planet. Think of it, 85%. And and hence those berries and nuts and seeds are eaten by songbirds and other animals up to grizzly bears. And we're basically really starting to see these organisms decline, and I believe pesticides is definitely one of the reasons for that.
It is really alarming. And you think about, we need to start having that concept of a day without a pollinator, like what the earth would look like without their survival. It's really kind of terrifying if you think about it. You know, you mentioned that here in SLO County, we are home to the monarch groves in Pismo. The monarchs like to come stop off here for a while, and they're also affected by this. What can people do? What should people be doing to, you know? I just find that when I talk to people, they say, myself, I can't make a large enough change for my contribution to be worth it. But what can we do?
See, and I couldn't disagree more. I've worked on wolves, I've worked on spotted owls, I've worked on salmon. Now I've run the Xerces Society for 10 years. One of the great things about conserving pollinators and other invertebrates is anybody can take steps. It doesn't matter how big your yard is, whether you even live in an apartment. We have what's called the Pollinator Pledge, and it's so easy. Flowers, flowers, flowers. Plant flowering plants that are beneficial to pollinators that bloom all season long. Think about where these animals nest. In the case of monarchs, they overwinter at these sites along the coast, and Xerces is working very hard to protect those sites. In many cases, these bees will nest right in your landscape, and you need to think about where they might nest. And then number 3 is just don't use pesticides. These things are toxic to these important animals, and especially in urban environments, we just don't need them for cosmetic purposes. I think in agriculture, we can work and start to be more sustainable and move to organic and sustainable produce. But I think that I can say right now, just stop using them in urban areas because they're just not needed.
And these trees up in Oregon that were responsible for the 50,000 bumblebees, that was a cosmetic application, right?
It wasn't a food need.
It wasn't a food need. It wasn't an economic need. It was purely cosmetic. I will end by saying that you can get all of the information you need at the Xerces website. Our goal is to take scientific information and make it easily usable by gardeners and farmers and others. Just go to xerces.org, and you can take our pollinator pledge. You can download lots of information. And then the last I would say is spread the word. If you're interested in this topic and you want to make a difference, start working in your own community. Talk to the city. Find out whether they're spraying these chemicals. Talk to the county. Talk to the Parks Department. Talk to your neighbors and start a conversation, and we can make a difference.
You know, that's a great point because it does start on that level. Like you said, one person can talk to somebody at the city. The next thing you know, that starts building steam, and then the cities stop using these pesticides and herbicides.
Start the conversation. I'm on your website right now, and it's really easy to use. Lots of great information, and like you were saying, it's easily accessible. I can understand. I'm not a scientific person, but I can get it.
Patty and I were in the news industry, are still in the news industry for a really long time, and people that can boil it down and make it digestible
makes all the difference.
You're very rare, Scott. We love that. Scott Hoffman Black with Xerces, the Xerces Society. That is spelled with an X. Xerces.org. Xerces.org. We have it linked at eatdrinkexplore.com under today's program summary. Scott, you were such a fantastic addition to the show today. We're glad that you were the final half hour. You just imparted terrific information. Thank you so much, and safe travels today.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.